Stay tuned after the review for an important announcement.
The Kirin are usually peaceful and kind, but when they get mad, they turn into Myrics, creatures made of fire and vengeance.
Sorry guys, but Twilight did it first. Sounds of Silence was an episode that was given a special preview at Comic-Con 2018, and people were really drawn to it. It's one of the episodes that people have really been looking forward to this season, and now that it's here, it's time to talk about it. Applejack and Fluttershy are sent by the map on a friendship mission to the Peaks of Peril. There, they come across the mysterious Kirin who aren't able to communicate with them since they refuse to talk. They send AJ to find the one Kirin who can talk, Autumn Blaze, who explains the situation to her. From there, AJ and Flutter seem to be in a disagreement on how to handle the friendship problem. Do they allow the Kirin to bottle up their emotions or give back their voice at the risk of them going berserk and burning down their village? So firstly, we gotta talk about the Kirin since they play a huge part in the episode. They're actually based on mythological Chinese creatures normally named the Quillen, although their name is pronounced and spelled differently depending on what version you're referring to. Quillen in Chinese, Kirin in Japanese, and so on. I really like the look of the Kirin. They have a really fitting nature-based design. They have these chimera hybrid appearances to them, and they resonate pretty well with how they look like in mythology. Dragon scales around their bodies, hair like a lion around their heads, horns shaped like deer antlers, and still maintaining pony features as well. They also have these dim earth-like tones that aren't as bright as the neon colors of ponies, which ultimately fits them much better. With their colors being less bright, you're able to better appreciate the actual design of the Kirin. And the earth tone color combinations do a pretty good job popping out without feeling distracting. They also put in some nice details like demonstrating how Kirin magic is different from unicorn magic. It's only these little pattern marks that glow instead of the whole horn, and it seems to have a pretty strong link with the earth and its elements. The design of the village also has a pretty interesting look to it. It has this lush jungle tribe style to it which would fit their nature since they're isolated in the middle of the mountains. And despite losing their voices and supposedly not being able to express themselves, we see how the Kirin are able to communicate and show emotion. When AJ tries to talk to them, they give these visual cues by tilting their heads to show confusion and disinterest. After years of living under a no-speaking rule, they would treat those who speak with a mundane expression. And when they see the two ponies argue, they express concerned emotions like worrying or feeling nervous. And when they dump them into the river, they clearly show signs of regret. They don't want to take away their voices, but they've had first-hand experience in what arguing can cause, and they don't want to see others going through the same problems that they did. Because of their history and their nature, they've come to believe that silence is the only way to stop fighting. And their pained expressions as they're about to dump them in the river shows how this is a pretty difficult choice for them. So it had to be difficult for the Kirin as well, adding more weight to their dilemma. They still feel emotion, but on a self-preserved level due to fear. All of this detail comes across as really satisfying world building, and because it's not tied into a save the world situation like in Shadowplay, it makes the world building aspect feel much more lighthearted and appropriate. And then you have the character Autumn Blaze, who's a lot of fun to be around. She has this really chatty and spontaneous personality since she was forced to bottle up her emotions for years, and the voice work provided by Rachel Bloom fits surprisingly well with her, considering that she's known for not so family-friendly material. She may come across as really playful, but she's also surprisingly insightful. The way she expresses how she feels about the view of the mountain shows AJ a solution to the problem. She speaks in an honest but open-minded tone that shows how she's found a healthy way to approach her problem as a Kirin, controlling her emotions but not being afraid to express herself. And it really shows in the song number, which is really fun. The energy and production put into it is really impressive, and it fits into the story by giving us background on the Kirin situation. I think what I really like about this one is the lyrics. They do a really good job reflecting on both the moral of the episode and Autumn's outlook on the Kirin situation, demonstrating the importance of expressing yourself and not letting emotions bottle up inside. Speaking of the moral, I really like how the episode tackles the issue of anger management. It's a pretty viral and important lesson to teach, searching for a healthy way to let out your anger and not being afraid to speak. The Kirin needed to learn how to deal with their emotional problems appropriately, and learning about anger management works really well for them as a personal and community-related solution. They learned that if you're mad about something, to not burst out in public. Go find a secluded place to let it out, then come back when you've cooled down, which is a pretty relatable way that people have managed their anger. That way they can let it out without damaging anything, and they can continue to express themselves without fear of upsetting each other. That's a pretty smart way to tackle this moral, and I really appreciate how the episode handled it. But there's still a couple of things in the episode that feel really distracting. Firstly, I really don't like how the official language is Ponish. If Ponish is supposed to be canon for English, how is it that every single creature is using it so fluently? It ruins the diversity and inclusive vibe of the cast by giving common English a native pony name. Like, do griffins use griffish? Do dragons use dragish? Do yaks use yakish? It just comes across as really distracting. Also, if AJ and Flutters are leaving the school again, what does that mean for their classes? Haven't they hired any new teachers or expanded the staff yet? It's getting needlessly complicated to think about how they're juggling their initial occupations, running the school, and going on friendship missions. Then there's the fact that Fluttershy's character is really inconsistent in this episode. Half the time she's acting assertive, and the other half she's acting cowardly and shivering in fear. It felt like they wanted to keep her character development over the years while maintaining familiar traits of her past self, and the episode couldn't find a way to balance it properly. AJ's personality also feels kind of off in some scenes, almost as she seems to have adapted Rainbow Dash's impatience. AJ has been known for being stubborn and straightforward, but this kind of impatience feels like it was added to her personality pretty randomly. And if helping the Karen expressing themselves properly and getting their voices back was the friendship problem, why is Fluttershy neglecting to do that? The Karen were already refusing to talk before they were sent on their friendship mission, so keeping things the way they are now wouldn't change anything. It just makes Fluttershy look really oblivious to the actual problem. And lastly, the resolution just feels kind of rushed. I mean, a random squirrel just pops out of nowhere, and it happens to be a squirrel that Fluttershy helped out earlier, and it happens to know about the flowers that provide a cure for the River of Silence, and they happen to be the same flowers that Autumn used to cure herself, and there just happens to be enough to cure everyone in the village at the same time. Wow, that was a mouthful. It just feels like the episode's problem was solved by a sudden string of coincidences that make the ending happen way too fast, which really sticks out as the rest of the pacing was so good. But regardless, Sounds of Silence was a nice episode. The subject matter and the lore were handled very well, Autumn Blaze is a fun character, the world building aspect fits into the episode properly, and it has some pretty good jokes like the crazy conductor or the Karen playing charades. It may not be as impressive as some other episodes of this season, but it's definitely a good one. Okay, now here's the important announcement that I mentioned earlier. I know that it's awkward to stick this at the end of a review, but it's important that I get this out, and my reviews are the ones that gain more views over my other types of videos. For the last couple of days, we've been raising awareness for a GoFundMe by MintHeart. We did a live stream on my channel that will give you more details on the situation, but to put it simply, her home has become an unhealthy and unsafe environment for her to be in. Right now, we're trying to do whatever we can to raise awareness and donations for her cause so that she can move out and try to start a new life for herself. I know that GoFundMes tend to be shady, but trust me on this one because it's legitimate. We obtained proof that her mother has been emotionally abusing her and gaslighting her, and I've known Mint for a very long time. I care about her, and I want her to get somewhere safe. More details on the situation can be found in the GoFundMe page. So please, in any way you can, give her your support. A link to the GoFundMe will be in the description of this video. If you can spare some money, please donate. And if you can't, please spread around the GoFundMe however you can. Any kind of support would be deeply appreciated. So please, help out MintHeart in any way that you can. This is Map, signing out.